This is the early edition, a curated weekday guide to major news and developments over the past 24 hours. Curated by Sivan Watt and read by an automated voice. Published April 15, 2026 on Just Security, an essential resource for those shaping a just and secure world. Here's today's news. Iran war. Negotiations. President Trump said yesterday in an interview that a second round of direct negotiations with Iran could take place in Pakistan over the next 2 days. Trump did not say whether Vice President J.D. Vance would continue to lead the negotiating team. Trump also said he did not like the reports that the United States had proposed a 20-year suspension of all nuclear activity in Iran, rather than a permanent ban on enrichment. "I've been saying they can't have nuclear weapons," Trump said, "so I don't like the 20 years. Chris Cameron reports for the New York Times. Karen DeYoung reports for the Washington Post. Israeli intelligence chief David Barnea said yesterday that the war in Iran had delivered a serious blow to the Iranian regime, but that Israel's mission would be complete only once the regime was replaced. Isabel Kirshner and Gabby Sobelman report for the New York Times. Iran war, Strait of Hormuz. The first full day of the U.S. blockade on vessels calling at Iranian ports made little difference to Strait of Hormuz traffic yesterday, with at least 8 ships, including 3 Iran-linked tankers, crossing the waterway, shipping data showed. During the first 24 hours, no ships made it past the U.S. blockade. U.S. Central Command claimed on social media, adding that 6 vessels complied with direction from U.S. forces to turn around to re-enter an Iranian port. Florence Tan, Mariko Katsumura, and Jonathan Saul report for Reuters. Iran-linked ships are increasingly using spoofing tactics to evade detection in and around the Strait of Hormuz, following the U.S. blockade, according to maritime intelligence experts. Now, we are starting to see vessels going dark, or using zombie or random identification, said Windward CEO Ami Daniel. Efrat Livni reports for the New York Times. Iran war. Lebanon operations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday hosted direct talks between Israel and Lebanon in Washington. The talks concluded with encouraging words and talk of further meetings, but no firm commitments and no change in Israel's refusal to halt its military campaign against Hezbollah. A source said that Lebanese officials reiterated their desire to disarm Hezbollah and asked for U.S. aid for Lebanon's armed forces to carry out the task. Michael Crowley and Ewan Ward report for the New York Times. Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, Japan, and 6 other countries yesterday condemned the killing of UN peacekeepers in Lebanon and called for an urgent end to hostilities. The joint statement focused on concern around the worsening humanitarian situation and displacement crisis, without directly mentioning Israel or Hezbollah. Iran war. Other developments. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said yesterday that her government had suspended a defense cooperation deal with Israel. "When there are things we don't agree with, we act accordingly," Meloni told reporters. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said in a statement, "We have no security agreement with Italy. We have a memorandum of understanding from many years ago that has never contained any substantive content. This will not affect Israel's security." Angelo Amante and Alvise Armelini report for Reuters. Chinese President Xi Jinping said yesterday that the world cannot risk reverting to the law of the jungle, in his first public comments on the war. Xi did not mention the United States or Trump directly, but he added that to maintain the authority of international rule of law, we cannot use it when it suits us and abandon it when it doesn't. China's foreign ministry accused the United States of a targeted blockade that will only aggravate confrontation, escalate tension under the already fragile ceasefire, and further jeopardize safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Lily Kuo reports for the New York Times. David E. Sanger and Tyler Pager report for the New York Times. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps secretly acquired a Chinese spy satellite in 2024, significantly enhancing its ability to monitor and target U.S. military bases across the Middle East during recent strikes, according to a Financial Times investigation. Miles Johnson, Peter Andringa, Allison Killing, Charles Clover, and Dmitry Sevastopoulos report. The IMF said yesterday that the Iran war has halted global economic momentum. Prior to the war, we were poised to upgrade our global growth forecast, the IMF said yesterday in its latest World Economic Outlook, pointing to a tech investment boom, easing trade tensions, and buoyant financial markets. War in the Middle East will overwhelm these underlying forces. Courtney Brown and Neil Irwin report for Axios. Israel-Hamas war. Israeli fire yesterday killed at least 11 Palestinians in Gaza, including 2 children, local health officials said. Nidal al-Maghrabi and Dawood Abu al-Qas report for Reuters. Russia-Ukraine war. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth will again skip the Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting this week, with the Pentagon's policy chief Elbridge Colby attending instead, according to 2 U.S. officials. Paul McCleary reports for Politico. The Trump administration informed Congress on April 8 that Cuba has contributed up to 5,000 fighters for Russia's war in Ukraine, while also providing diplomatic and political support for Moscow, according to an official transmission from the State Department. The public record does not prove Havana officially dispatched all Cuban fighters, the 5-page unclassified report states. However, there are significant indicators that the regime knowingly tolerated, enabled, or selectively facilitated the flow. Hans Nichols reports for Axios. Sudanese civil war. Sudan today enters into a 4th year of war. This grim and chastening anniversary marks another year when the world has failed to meet the test of Sudan, UN. Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher said. Sami Magdi and Sam Mednick report for AP News. Other global developments. A Milan court yesterday accepted a class action brought by a consumer group against Meta over the theft of personal data involving Facebook users in Italy. According to the court order, the data scraping incident, which took place between January 2018 and September 2019, affected around 35 million Facebook users in Italy and 533 million globally. Reuters reports. Around 250 people are missing after a boat carrying Rohingya refugees and Bangladeshi nationals capsized in the Andaman Sea last week, UNHCR and the International Organization of Migration said yesterday. Reuters reports. Serbia will jointly make combat drones with Israel. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said yesterday. Vučić said that we will have the best drones in this part of the world, according to the Tanjug news agency. Serbia's Yugo Import SDPR state arms producer will open a drone plant with Elbit Systems, according to Serbia's BIRN news service. The report said the Israeli company will own 51% of the future plant, AP News reports. U.S. Foreign Affairs. The Trump administration plans to launch its refund system on April 20th for the $166 billion paid in tariffs that the Supreme Court struck down as unlawful earlier this year. U.S. Customs and Border Protection said in a court filing yesterday that it has completed the development of the initial phase of the system, known as CAPE. The system will consolidate refunds so importers will receive one electronic payment, with interest when applicable. The filing said that as of April 9th, some 56,497 importers had completed the process to receive electronic refunds for tariffs, amounting to $127 billion. Tom Halls reports for Reuters. U.S. Caribbean and Pacific operations. A U.S. military strike yesterday on an alleged drug trafficking boat in the eastern Pacific killed 4 people. Eric Schmidt reports for the New York Times. The Trump administration eased sanctions on Venezuela's state-run financial system yesterday, allowing banks in Venezuela to begin legally using U.S. currency and directly receiving billions of dollars in oil sales. Mark Caputo reports for Axios. U.S. immigration developments. ICE deported 442,637 people between October 2024 and September 2025, according to newly released statistics. The figure is about 171,000 people more than the previous fiscal year, but far short of Trump's campaign promise to deport 1 million people a year. The figure is the first official deportation statistic released under the Trump administration and was included in a congressional budget justification report. Brittany Gibson reports for Axios. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is set to receive more than 30 deportees from the United States this week, 4 sources told Reuters. The people being deported are all from countries other than the DRC, with at least some coming from Central and South America, according to one source and court documents. One source said the number was 37, while another put the figure at 45. Clement Bonnerot, Robbie Corey-Boulet, and Julia Paravicini report. U.S. domestic developments. The House of Representatives will vote today on an 18-month renewal of FISA Section 702, under pressure, ahead of its April 20, 2026 expiration. Conservative Republican opposition and significant but not unified Democratic resistance threaten the measure's passage. Brianna Riley, Anthony Adragna, Andrew Desiderio, Laura Weiss, and Jake Sherman report for Punchbowl News. Maine lawmakers yesterday approved a bill freezing construction of new data centers until November 2027. The pause would give Maine time to assess the risks to the environment and the electric grid. The bill is headed to Governor Janet Mills's Democrat desk. Alyssa Luckpat reports for The Wall Street Journal. Federal prosecutors from U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro's office made an unannounced visit to the Federal Reserve's headquarters renovation site yesterday, according to a source and a letter reviewed by The Wall Street Journal. After speaking with construction workers, 2 prosecutors were advised that they could not access the site without pre-clearance. An outside lawyer for the Fed objected to the visit in a letter to Pirro's office, citing a judge's ruling that the ongoing investigation aimed to pressure Chair Jerome Powell. Federal prosecutors from Pirro's office are also seeking to wipe out the seditious conspiracy convictions of 12 members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers who helped plan the January 6th riots, according to court documents filed yesterday. Salvador Rizzo, Jeremy Roebuck, and Perry Stein report for The Washington Post. Trump administration actions. Sebastian Gorka, a national security aide to Trump, is seeking to become the next head of the National Counterterrorism Center, a position that would give him broad powers over the country's counterterrorism apparatus, according to 4 sources. Gorka has focused much of his career on a hardline approach to Islamist extremist and immigration policy. It remains unclear whether the administration intends to nominate Gorka. Noah Robertson, John Hudson, and Dan Lamothe report for The Washington Post. Staff from at least 2 federal agencies have reached out to Anthropic in recent days to express interest in integrating Claude Mythos into their cyber defense efforts, according to a former U.S. technology official. The Commerce Department's Center for AI Standards and Innovation is actively testing Mythos' hacking prowess, 4 sources said. John Sacalariades and Brendan Bordelon report for Politico. Trump administration litigation. A federal appeals court yesterday concluded that U.S. District Judge James Boasberg had overstepped his authority by continuing to pursue possible contempt charges against administration officials who signed off on deportations to El Salvador. Kyle Cheney and Josh Gerstein report for Politico. Thank you for listening to Just Security's Early Edition today, April 15, 2026. If you enjoy listening, Just Security's analytic articles are also available in audio form on the justsecurity.org website. To stay up to date on Just Security's analysis of law, policy, and current events, go to justsecurity.org. Subscribe to Just Security on Substack, and follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.